I've actually lost 11 pounds since my back surgery.
How much do you lose after
I
your neck
did.
surgery?
I didn't lose anything
Oh,
actually.
Welcome to Food is Medicine, where medicine meets the menu, the podcast where the art of culinary excellence meets the science of modern medicine. Join the world's first and finest chef-neurologist dynamic duo, Dr. Victor Wang and Chef Dennis Arvizu, as they dive into the powerful link between our dietary choices and our well-being. Uncover the impactful ways in which simple changes in diet can ward off chronic illnesses, sharpen mental acuity, and contribute to a longer, healthier life. Prepare to be hungry for more than just food. Tune in to their insightful and occasionally spicy discussions today and find out how the food choices you make can spice up your health for a tastier tomorrow.
Well, how are things?
good, good. Gotten over the hand, foot, mouth that my daughter gave me last week. So, yeah, sorry I couldn't record last week, but yeah, it's like,
You're all good.
yeah, it hit my throat, got some lesions on my hands, my feet, and I just
Jesus.
couldn't eat anything for a few days. It hurt every time I swallowed it. I thought it was the flu when I first, when the symptoms first started, but yeah. Anyway.
Well, glad to hear you feeling better.
Yeah, thanks. How are you feeling?
Mm, Pretty good, actually. Now going on 5 weeks after recovery, roughly.
Yeah.
And so far, so good. Every day I try to do a little bit more, like more walking, longer distance, just kind of to build up endurance again. And yeah, been sticking to a very stringent plant-based diet. And I feel that that's been helping a lot.
Yeah. Can you compare it to your neck surgery? You didn't do anything special for your recovery of the neck, did you? Dietary wise, I mean.
No, I, took it easy the first couple days, eating on the lighter end, but nothing that I said I would stick to what I've done for the back.
Yeah.
And
you feel
the
like
healing process on the neck, I felt was very, very easy. So I think that's also why. And with the back of going into it, I felt a little bit nervous about what recovery would look like. And I feel it's been a lot easier than anticipated.
Good. Your back, you mean?
Yes, my back.
Yeah. I'm curious, like, as far as recovery, if you can remember back to the recovery from the neck compared to the back where you're now sort of paying more attention to, your physical therapy and your diet. Any difference?
Yeah, I think in this case, I've definitely not feeling as sluggish. I've actually lost 11 pounds since my back surgery.
How much do you lose after your neck surgery?
I didn't lose anything, actually.
Oh.
I started actually gaining some weight, primarily, I would say, water weight. I couldn't move as much anymore with the back, so I had a lot less physical exercise, and then a lot of my body was inflamed, so that didn't help the situation. But yeah, I think for this last one right now, I've lost 11 pounds. I've been eating a lot of plant-based meals. I finished all my soup, unfortunately. I ran out of soup yesterday.
You able
But
to
that's
make more?
been great. Not right now. So I'm on kind of a limited mobility as well. I shouldn't be lifting more than 10 pounds. Trying not to bend. So I do have my brace that they asked me now also to start, kind of weaning off because then my body will get used to it, and it's true. But I wear it if I'm trying to do something like in the kitchen because it reminds me not to bend over because it presses on my incision a little bit. So that, in a way, kind of pushes me back, making sure I stand up straight. But so far, I've been very happy with the results. No pain down the legs. Actually, it just feels like weight has come off figuratively, and I guess you can say literally, but I do feel a lot in higher spirits.
Better.
So.
Great. That's great.
Yeah.
And pain is just the incision now.
The incision, it's a little bit there still. One thing that I guess no one mentioned when I went into surgery, and not that it really matters, is there is a little bit of numbness. So I guess some of the nerve endings there won't probably heal. So now I have a a little patch of numbness on the abdomen, and say it's nothing. But the incision has been healing. That's slowly. I think the pain has been diminishing. Now I'm feeling a little bit of as the healing process begins on the actual spine. And I'll get like a spasm here or there, and just kind of have to remind myself to take it slow. And as I start to kind of become the long-term recovery, I mean, it's going to take over the next course of the next year to get fully
Right.
healed. But so far, everything's been
Great. Yeah. So you'll be able to dunk after a year?
pretty much, hopefully.
Right. Well, hopefully this will be a sort of a initiative to live a more healthy lifestyle and, figure out where things go after this.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think for me, it's been a turning point, and looking at what foods can help you heal. I know that, especially for chefs, as much as people admire about what you can make in the business, and I think the general consensus tends to be that, oh, you must eat well and great at home. And I think it's the complete opposite. A lot of chefs eat very poorly at home because you get home and the last thing you want to do is cook or smell food. You just want to chill. So whatever's easiest is what you'll go to.
Yeah.
And, half of the time it's junk. It's all the ultra processed items that really affect your long-term overall health.
Are there a lot of overweight? Would you say a lot of overweight chefs?
I wouldn't know exactly the statistic. Yeah,
Just from your
just
observation.
yes, and generally so. And I mean, I remember watching a meme once about like how you grow in the kitchen. Like you start as an intern, and you're like this scrawny, skinny individual. And then as you're growing, you go into like a chef de partie, or which is usually like a line cook. You get a little bit of more muscle.
Girth.
And then, I mean, you go a little bit higher and you start to, look a little bit fuller. And then you go into the head of the kitchen, you're a lot heavier. And then you're the executive chef and your belly's just hanging on the floor. And it sounds funny, but I mean, there is some truth to it because as you go, up the brigade in the kitchen, you start to do a lot of less of the physical labor.
Right.
If you spend your day tasting food and, those are all calories,
Right.
unfortunately.
Right. Well, I mean, there's that phrase, never trust a skinny chef, right? It's
correct. Correct.
I mean, if you're eating food that doesn't taste good, you'd probably be more on the skinny side, but yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's where, unfortunately, with chefs, it's diabetes, high pressure, high blood pressure. Fortunately, some end up with, heart attacks, and they got to stop. I mean, it's one of those things that being in the kitchen is great, but it does take a wear and tear on your body. Actually, ironically, so I was putting together for like another podcast, just kind of my overall thoughts on like people pivoting out of the kitchen, and like myself that's looking to get into a different career, alternative career with skills that you've built in the kitchen. And ironically, on the New York Times Magazine just last week, an article came out about how chefs essentially are starting to run away from the kitchen in these days. So it's called, there it is. It's called Why So Many Chefs Don't Want Restaurants Anymore. And it's in the New York Times Magazine, came out on the 10th, so a week ago. And it goes into really about how some of the more renowned chefs, particularly in New York, have either closed down their business, have left the business, or are considering it. And a lot of it has to do with his health. Like there's a gentleman here, I believe is Chef Seamus Muller, who was a very, very renowned chef and left the business in 2019. But his whole thing was he suffered from rheumatoid arthritis, like in a very bad situation, and spent about 8 years with the battle that eventually landed him in the hospital, and he almost died. And so his whole thing also was the diet. Like he started looking at what a plant-based diet could do for him, and over the course of a year, it really transformed his life. And so he went on to write a book called Foods That Heal. And I've seen a lot of other chefs start to take that direction because there is a lot of healing properties in plants that help our body. And I think for me, I feel I've done the same with my recovery for my back and focused a lot more on knowing what's in my food. Hence why I shop a lot at farmers markets.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be interesting maybe in a future conversation to talk about, the sort of the food industry. I mean, there's a lot of parallels with the healthcare industry too, because, a lot of people are leaving private practice medicine, and it's not, I wouldn't say it's the exact same thing, but, for similar reasons for health. I think health, mental burnout's a big word in the healthcare space, but it's just not the healthcare space, but everywhere else. And, I think a lot of it has to do with probably corporations and inflation and supply chain and, a lot of the other things that we talk about in the world. I think we can talk about inflammatory things because you're talking about anti-inflammatory foods and healing properties. I think it would be good to have at least a basic understanding of inflammation, what that means. Everybody talks about anti-inflammation. We know that we generally accept that anti-inflammatory things are good, but inflammation serves its purpose in the body. And so that would be a probably longer conversation because people build careers studying inflammation and healing properties and whatnot. We still don't understand all of it. So hopefully I can help distill some of that for people to understand. As a doctor, I think I do a lot of educating more than maybe actually prescribing. But I want patients to understand what they're taking, anything that a doctor says to you should help you instead of just taking my instructions or directions at face value without knowing why. But having an understanding will make it more likely that you'll follow whatever plan that we come up with together.
Yeah, and that's a great topic to talk about. I know questions have come up about inflammation. Primarily, I think, is your point of what it is, as well as what medicine should I take. And I think one of the things is, as at least from my side, is like, what kind of food can you prescribe yourself to help manage this, help prevent this in the future? And of course, this is all the knowledge that we have that comes from personal experience, but make sure that you run this through your health professional to make sure it's something that is better for you, because I think we mentioned last time that what might be good for somebody may not be good for everybody else. So.
Right, exactly. And, the unfortunate thing too is that doctors don't get a good education on nutrition. I know it's kind of cliche that healthcare is not really healthcare. It's really about sick care. So you spend the bulk of your education trying to figure out how to diagnose somebody with whatever disease they have, and then coming up with a treatment plan. There really isn't a lot of education that goes into how to keep people healthy and how to keep people healthy living longer, actually, not just being healthy. That's kind of a vague term. But I think maybe in the past 10, 15 years, there has been a shift towards longevity research and healthy living. Hopefully, there's going to be more education on that, but we can touch on that also in a future conversation, just so we'll be talking here for hours and hours today.
Yeah, no, I think longevity is also on quite a bit of people's mind. I think, definitely it's good for a deeper conversation. But I think we touched on it one day about how it's predicted that by 2030, the Korean population will be the longest living population in the world. And a lot of it has to do with their dietary lifestyle.
Diet, exercise.
Yeah, but the holistic view of it is the type of food. So
Yeah.
How does the medical field define inflammation?
Yeah, I was looking, I was thinking about how to present that, but it's like, it's complicated, you got inflammatory processes that at the basic level, it's about fighting off infections, right? I mean, not the basic, but the easiest to understand level, I guess. And so you have all of these inflammatory processes that, I mean, I could have a big chart about all these mechanisms that happen that, once a bacteria gets into your system, or you get some damage to some cells, and your body recruits various things, just trying to keep it simple to understand, but the body reacts to damage in a certain way, and that's what inflammation is, and that's how your body heals itself. Is it starts with that signal to say, hey, I need help over here. If I sprain an ankle, if I cut myself, whatever.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, inflammation is also, I guess you could say, a good thing, because it seems like it's a body's response to heal.
Yep.
So then how is bad?
It's a bad thing.
When is Yeah.
So there's various mechanisms that we can talk about later too, of chronic inflammation. So when you have inflammatory processes that last longer than they should, on top of that, when the older you get, your immune system, which is responsible for that inflammation, gets weaker. So that's why older people are more susceptible to things like flu, or things that don't affect younger people will affect older people much more significantly. So
awesome. I think, just to make it simple, when something gets inflamed, and I'll go to like rheumatoid arthritis, because that's, I think, what my family suffers with, is that with all this extra inflammation, they get like fluid in their joints and they swell up. And so, I mean, inflammation is an ongoing topic. Yeah. I know every time I go to the store, I see in the little aisleways, anti-inflammatory this, or the diet of the year. And so I think up to where, for me, up until, more recently, really focusing on my diet, I think I felt it was good to talk about a few things of what potentially are good ingredients for inflammation.
Sure.
And I think the number one is, and I know it's like all the rage these days, is turmeric. Right. Is curcumin. It's a product in the, India, Middle East. And for me, unfortunately, I'm not the biggest fan of this spice, but it does, have a lot of research behind it, of its anti-inflammatory properties.
And when you say you're not the biggest fan, you mean the biggest fan of using it in your food? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Flavor-wise. I'm personally not the biggest fan of the spice flavor.
Sure.
But it's I think I saw the other day a turmeric latte, which I'm not sure.
I'm not sure about that either.
Yeah. So. But another one, and I think this is something that maybe more people would be interested in, is omega-3. We keep hearing of omega-3 fats. So maybe if you could help me understand, is, every time we hear the word fat, it has this negative connotation. So how is an omega-3 fat a positive one?
I think the thinking about around fats has changed. When I was young, as a kid, the 80s and 90s, fats was bad, right? And you had all these products, no fat, low fat, and those were considered healthy, right? I remember healthy choice cookies. Like we would think that, hey, the more I eat, the better, and people would gain weight on healthy choice because because you didn't feel bad for eating it. I think as research has come around in the last, since then, they've found that fats have a satiating signal, so that you don't eat too much. So fats are good, but just like everything else, it's moderation is the best.
Moderation.
Yeah,
Moderation is key.
moderation's key.
Yeah, I mean, and simple ingredients to use. I mean, I think the over used one is salmon. Salmon, is very high in omega fats, but there's other items as well as mackerel, a really oily fish, and I think the downside to it is the oil has a distinct smell or odor, and when you cook it, it's when your house smells like fish for a week. So for me, for example, with salmon, so I always eat it in like sashimi or sushi, and I don't have to worry about the oily smell. But if I am going to cook it, most likely I'm going to cook it outdoors, so the smell stays out of the
Right.
house as
Right.
much possible. But then, of course, you got a lot of nuts, chia seeds, you have pumpkin seeds, and a lot of this you can buy in those pre-mixed, like trail mix. Uh, from what I understand, raw is better because it still has intact its oils versus having it roasted. But here's something that I think the favorite of everybody is berries, right? Strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, golden berries, all types of berries. Um, and so when I looked at this, for a chef, color is a big thing for your plates, right? Because you're doing artistry,
Sure.
and we always talk about you eat with your eyes, and so you want to have this visual, appealing art in front of you. And so one way to do it is through berries. And so we see the spectrum of light here. Um, Different berries have different properties, and it's a lot of those antioxidants as we hear, and how it breaks down different types of molecules. I remember my organic chemistry days, and those that took a lot of processing, as you mentioned. So, but that's an easy one, right? I mean, you find berries all the time in the markets, in the stores, and simple for breakfast to go with like your granola, yogurt, parfaits, um,
Just
smoothies is
straight
a,
berries.
and this one's my favorite, uh, resveratrol, which is the what you find in grapes and wines. To me, is the biggest one because one, I love grapes. Period. Like I think right now is grape harvest is pretty much over, but peak of season, I'm eating those like popcorn. And not to mention, they serve to make a beautiful wine. And,
Oh, red
you
wine
know,
specifically.
specifically
Yeah,
correct red
red wine.
wine. And, that's why when you eat a fatty dish, you have a glass of red wine. The fattier the dish, you want a drier wine because it cuts that fat. And, but again, it goes back to moderation. From what I've read, it's a glass for a lady a day is as much as you should consume, and up to two glasses for the gentleman, but not a bottle. So kind of keep that in mind. So hopefully that provides a little bit of backing onto some of the common ingredients that you can find in your local grocery store and incorporate into your favorite dishes. And by all means experiment with them, right? I mean, I think the key here is that as you make incremental changes for yourself, it in the length of time it makes a significant difference. And so what we're looking at to do with food is it's not the end all cure all of any type of disease. It's more of helping you to manage what potentially could be happening within your body and try to just live a longer and healthier life.
Yeah, I think that goes back to the healthcare versus sick care.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about using foods to cure things because antibiotics have their place, medicines have their place,
Mm-hmm.
but diet is becoming a bigger thing these days, where it's hey, we really have to pay attention to our diet and what we eat for health.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
absolutely. I mean, I think there was a good Netflix series that just came out a couple months ago on, they did this research at Stanford regarding, identical twins, where they got, I don't know how many pairs of identical twins, and one ate a very, stringent plant-based nutrition diet, and one just ate whatever. They compared their health over a certain period of time, and they were able to, derive what you consume played a part in your overall health.
And I think something we can talk about in the future too, looking at studies, and what do studies mean? What do clinical trials mean? I do my main job is running clinical trials.
All right.
Cool.
I think that's all we got for this week.
Nice. I think we covered a lot of stuff there. But
we have. We've covered quite a bit. And
maybe we dive into something else more in depth.
We definitely can.
Thank you for joining us on this enlightening episode of Food as Medicine, where medicine meets the menu. We hope today's episode has inspired you to rethink the role of food in your health journey. Remember, the power to nourish your body and mind lies on your plate. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share. Food as Medicine, where medicine meets the menu, on all major podcast platforms with others who are passionate about living well. Until next time, keep experimenting in the kitchen and discovering the powerful, healing potential that lies within every meal.